Okay, the pathologist sent back a report. Take a look at this report. Halo nevus. Well, that's not common in a foot. I remember halo nevus has plenty of lymphatic infiltrate. Hang on. The pathologist took an interest in my dermoscopic image. Such images are helpful in sectioning the specimens. Because of the size of the lesion, there were two separate specimens taken. Specimen number 1. Nests of melanocytes at the epidermal junction and cords of melanocytes splayed between collagen bundles of the reticular dermis. No lymphatic infiltrate. Diagnosis was congenital melanocytic lesion, nevus. Now specimen number 2. Halo lentiginous compound melanocytic nevus with inflammatory infiltrate. My first conclusion, the dermatoscopic image showed what might be streaks that were melanocytic, but upon close examination, I told you, homogeneous color is present. This is still considered melanocytic, which is what I told you before. Now, the problem that we have is that I originally told you that the lesion was flat. Dermatofibromas sometimes are painful, sometimes they're not painful. However, they're usually elevated. Therefore, a dermatofibroma is unlikely and biopsy was necessary. Second conclusion. Do not solely rely on dermatoscopes to make your diagnosis. You need clinical information. In addition to the dermatoscopic image. So please note, it is so important to realize that one case you needed clinical information, and I basically want to emphasize the case where a pathology report comes back and you actually need to have a dermatoscopic image to monitor the lesion, be it a basal cell carcinoma or dermatofibroma. The dermatoscopic image will give you a clue in best monitoring a diagnosis if the pathology lab says to closely monitor that lesion. Main points. Skin biopsies without dermoscopic images are no longer, according to me, my personal opinion, it's no longer the gold standard. A biopsy without a dermatoscopic image gives only vertical information. A pathologist has to section the specimen, and a dermatoscope best enables you to get radio streaming, pseudopods, additional horizontal information, invaluable to the pathologist in making the final diagnosis in certain cases. In this day and age, why deprive our patients of this life-saving tool? Podiatrists without dermatoscopes, we think of asymmetry, we think of the border, we think of the color of the area, the evolution of a lesion, the diameter of the lesion. This is all fine and good, but these are clinical information that the naked eye can normally see. What about pseudopods? What about radial growth? What about all this horizontal information unseen to the naked eye? Podiatrists with dermatoscopes, especially with dermatoscopes with high polarization, sometimes see atypical vessels if the dermatoscope's polarization is strong enough. Perhaps a histologic report of an amelanotic melanoma may not be that much of a surprise to a podiatrist that already took a dermatoscopic image and saw irregular vessels in that dermatoscopic image, and they get back a pathology report that says amelanotic melanoma. They're not that surprised. However, a podiatrist that does not have a dermatoscope gets back a pathology report that says amelanotic melanoma. They say, gee, where did that come from? That's not to say that if you have a dermatoscope, you know the cause of an amelanoma. It just reduces some of the surprise if this does come back in a report. It sometimes reduces it if your polarization is strong enough and if you could recognize the irregular vascular structures and other melanocytic and any other melanoma-specific structures that might be present in the lesion. Dermatoscopes can be helpful in telling podiatrists to biopsy lesions they ordinarily would not biopsy. A lesion can be benign, uniform color. It could have uniform shape, okay, with the naked eye. However, if you use a dermatoscope on the area, you might actually see a dermatoscopic image that happens to be irregular and highly suspect and in need of a biopsy. So in certain cases, dermatoscopes can increase the number of biopsies to possibly save lives and prevent problems from occurring. Practice management. There's insurance companies, audit charts, and if you have a dermatoscopic report, dermatoscopic image, the medical legal ramifications of poor documentation might possibly sometimes be avoided, and this dermatoscopic additional information is helpful to back up your chart and your clinical findings. At last, to begin learning about dermoscopy. Dermoscopy below Wallace's line. Glabrous skin is on the plantar aspect of our feet and has fingerprint areas that have valleys and ridges. Non-glabrous skin is on the dorsum of the feet and hair growth is present. Wallace's line is a horizontal line around the foot that separates glabrous from non-glabrous skin. The glabrous skin could be known as the dermatoglyphics that you find on the plantar aspect of the feet. Now, regarding white skin, I learned at the seminar that the stem cell for the melanocytes that become a benign nevus is located in the reedy ridge, affiliated with the valley or the furrow. The stem cell for the melanocyte that becomes melanoma is affiliated with the reedy ridge that's associated with the ridge or the mountain. You're basically dealing with valleys and furrows on the plantar or apical part of the feet. The eccrine sweat ducts are located on the reedy ridge, affiliated with the ridge itself. Subcorneal hemorrhage versus melanoma. Subcorneal hemorrhage versus melanoma. Both could have pigment on the ridges. Okay, you see here, look here. This is what you would call a furrow. This is what you call a ridge. Here is your horizontal view. There's your ridge, the wide ridge, and you have the furrow, which is narrow. You see the eccrine sweat duct, which has hemorrhaging that comes up through the duct itself and onto the ridge. You could basically shave the subcorneal hemorrhage off, and you would then know you're not dealing with a melanoma, because usually subcorneal hemorrhaging does not have anything other than coming right off when you shave it with the number 10 blade. There's your horizontal information. You see those sweat ducts? See them? Whoa, what are we looking at here? This is a pigment boost, Dr. Chaskin's discovery. I'm a podiatrist. I discovered this. Pigment boost emphasizes furrows. I intend to write a paper on this discovery. Come back. See, you see the eccrine sweat ducts on the ridges? No pigment boost. In the pigment boost, the eccrine sweat ducts disappear, but you see those furrows, those lines right there. In white skin, parallel furrow pattern is benign and most of the pigment is concentrated on the furrows. Black skin, forget about. You can't use those rules. The arms of the ladder approximately perpendicular to the furrow pattern is called a lattice pattern. A lattice pattern is not a parallel furrow pattern. Mild shearing forces change the angle at which the melanocytes come to the surface. So therefore, you don't have a parallel furrow pattern, you have a lattice pattern. Here's pigment crossing over the ridge. Fibrillar pattern. A fibrillar pattern involves diagonal crossing over multiple furrows and ridges. Sometimes you can see a 45-degree angle. And here's the problem. If you have a fibrillar pattern and you have a biomechanical fault, there's no problem if there's weight bearing. However, on the acral or plantar aspect of the feet, if you have a fibula pattern and the area involved has no biomechanical fault that would lead to shearing forces, then you must biopsy because you're dealing with melanoma. Even if the fibular pattern is uniform spaced, uniform color, and there is no reason for that excess pressure that would cause a fibular pattern, you must biopsy. You check the shoes, you check for biomechanical fault, deformities. You remember your plantar first ray if you have a lesion subplantar first ray, and you have that sagittal plane where you have the first metatarsal dorsiflexus, and the frontal plane compensation occurs where it has a relative pronation of the rear foot as the longitudinal axis of the midfoot begins to supinate. So the first ray actually comes off the ground. There's no pressure on a flexible plantar first ray. So if you see that lesion that with a benign fibula-like pattern, that pattern is really not benign if there's no weight-bearing forces underneath that area. This is just an example I made up. Here you go. Here's a picture of a fibula pattern. You see the lines going, crossing the ridges, 45-degree angle. There you see the fibula pattern again. All podiatrists know about biomechanical faults. This can sometimes be helpful in deciding when to biopsy a lesion that appears with a so-called benign dermoscopic image. Decision-making occurs. You ask about the family history of skin cancer, clinical exam, dermoscopic exam, and sometimes additional biomechanical information can be very useful in deciding when to biopsy and when not to biopsy. Benign fibular pattern occurs on the arch without biomechanical fault or improperly sized shoes. A benign fibular pattern has a uniform colored and spaced lines. I believe that if no biomechanical fault or improperly sized shoes are responsible for shearing forces that would cause a dermatoscopically benign fibular pattern, one should still biopsy to rule out melanoma. White skin. If a parallel ridge pattern with pigment is concentrated on the ridges, one must biopsy with white skin. There are exceptions such as subcorneal hemorrhage and other exceptions. I remember I learned about peas in the pod pattern. I'm not going to get into that. It's way beyond the scope of this lecture. Where is the pigment here? Where's the pigment? You see two ducts on the ridges. Is this a lattice furrow or parallel furrow or ridge pattern? Is this a lattice furrow or parallel furrow or ridge pattern? Is this a lattice fibula or parallel furrow? Is this a lattice fibula or parallel furrow? Melanocytic, non-melanocytic, septal and a hemangioma or basal cell carcinoma? You know I didn't even show anything with a hemangioma. You know it's not that. And you know it's not a basal cell carcinoma. Okay. Case number 3. 80-year-old female presents for toenail care. Parallel vertical lines not evenly spaced extending proximally underneath the eponychium. Pigment concentrated on the dorsum of the toe. Should a biopsy be taken? If yes, where should the biopsy be taken? Shave biopsy or punch biopsy? Take a look at this.